Hello, I'm Jim Tolles. I'm a spiritual teacher. I blog at spiritualawakeningprocess.com and I share videos here on my Jim Tolles YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about healing illusions and attachments. Before I get into this topic, just want to remind you that I have links down below this video and a newsletter that you can sign up for if you're interested. Healing illusions and attachments. It's a little bit different than how we think about healing, but they absolutely do cause a lot of suffering and pain. As I get into this topic, I kind of offer four main types of healing that we do. The one and the most common that most people think of when we talk about healing is abuse and trauma. So somebody coming back from war has lost a limb, saw somebody killed or maimed, had to do terrible things to somebody else, right? That's very traumatic. Somebody's had sexual abuse, and a lot of sexual abuse comes from relatives, and relatives are supposed to love us, and that's particularly traumatic and confusing for a lot of people. I think it's always interesting to help people understand that a lot of these sexual abuses that can be discussed are usually coming from somebody someone knows, and particularly somebody that you think cares about you. And I think that doubles the trauma of it, because if it's a father abusing a daughter, that's not supposed to happen, right? There's this idea it's not supposed to happen. A lot of times I think people think it's just like some stranger that shows up and rapes or abuses somebody, but more often than not, that's not how it goes. Not my experience anyway. So there's a lot of trauma there emotionally and physically. There's all kinds of abuses. They're all bad and they all do need to heal, but that's not the only kind of healing that needs to happen for people. There's healing from more general upsetting experiences, a bad divorce, bad breakup, getting laid off from a job if that's upsetting for somebody, any type of situation that's upsetting and the person doesn't know how to fully process it. That's something that needs healing. And so people kind of come along with that, although that can be kind of surprising for a lot of people. A lot of people think, no, I was fine about my divorce or this ending of a friendship or losing my house or something. Like, I got over it. But then the emotional reality for a lot of people is, no, you didn't. And that pain causes us to react differently to life. And that creates ramifications in our life that if we're afraid of ever, losing a house again, so when the person has an opportunity to buy, they no longer do it. And so that changes the course of their lives. We do this all this time with unresolved pain and unresolved issues. As we drop down the next layer, so we're going trauma, abuse, upsetting experiences, now we go to more common issues. And many of the common issues we don't actually think are a problem. And so this is where what I'm talking about today gets more important to understand about healing. Is because common issues are wounding. A common issue is like the need to be successful. A lot of people would hear that, and maybe are hearing it right now, like, no, that's true, I do need to be successful. And that doesn't hurt me, but it does. First, there's all kinds of beliefs and judgments around what success even is. And there's usually a fear of failure that's on the other side. So fear and desire like to pair each other. So the desire for success on the one side has the shadow of the fear of failure on the other, and that's their little dance. And so there's tons of energy somebody will expend into trying to be successful, let's say in the business world, and all the time they spend working, and all the other things they neglect so that they can do the work, all the things they do to their body so that they can keep working, all the caffeine and sugar. Some people get into different kinds of drugs to keep themselves going and work insane amounts. Regardless of if it's necessary. It's a little bit different of a story if it's necessary. Necessary meaning that you're below or just right at your cost of living. Once you're above your cost of living, it really becomes optional. But people forget that, and that's the thing about a core issue that wants to succeed. And so a person like this can be wounding themselves in all sorts of ways, wounding other people because they're trying to succeed so much that if anybody else looks like they get in the way, they're denigrated, they're pushed out of their life, they're something is done to that person. So there's a lot of pain and suffering that's being caused by an issue that doesn't look like it's something that we need to heal. And today what I'm talking about is the level below that. The level below that are our deepest illusions and attachments. And I really want to offer this because I think for some of you that have moved through some of these other layers, you may think that your healing is done. And it's not. And now it's time to deal with some of the nastiest, most deeply ingrained parts of ourselves. One of our most fundamental illusions is that we are separate. And that causes us immense suffering. Because the minute we believe that illusion, it's all about us in a certain way. It's inherently a kind of selfish illusion. That I am this kind of separate thing and I'm somehow detached from all this other stuff, that I'm not one, right? We talk about oneness, but to really come into oneness is to deal with this profound illusion of separateness. And it's really played out in our sensory experience, because right now I'm touching my fingers and I'm not touching everything. And so that sense of separateness and how I touch my body, well, my body feels pretty separate. The way our senses work reinforces this illusion. And now that I'm a separate being, I have to take care of my separate self. Now, I'm not talking about eating and drinking and sleeping and all those things we do for body maintenance. Yeah, those make so much sense. I'm talking about how we end up defining and protecting the individuality we sense in ourselves. I'm talking about the drive to survive and the drive to procreate and how those individual instincts dominate us. The ego really is built on that foundation. This foundation, this sense of I am separate, I want to survive. That means I don't want fear or pain in my life, and I want to procreate. Regardless of whether we want kids or not, it has nothing to do with that. We're talking about the more fundamental, instinctual attachments we have, and the way our body talks to us through those attachments. Now there's a whole world of things we can do. And lately I've been using some of the very, very expert elite mountain climbers as a great example, because to some degree that goes against a more basic sense of trying to live. Because there's no need to do it, and you could die from it. And it tends to have a lot of pain and suffering, because climbing up frozen rock at 7,000 meters is not a picnic. It's not something I've ever done, but if you want to watch some of these really interesting videos like Meru, it's a really interesting documentary of these guys is climbing this incredibly difficult thing. And for a lot of people, because of our sense of separateness and our sense of protecting this body for as long as we humanly can, we see that and we're like, yeah, that's crazy. But is it? So healing this is opening up our ability to do a lot of different things that go beyond what the most instinctual parts of us want to do, which is to survive as long as humanly possible and have as many copies of ourselves running around out there. And it's not a fast healing. It's not an intellectual healing. A lot of people will say things like, well, no, I'm fine with death. And you can hear it in their voice. It's purely intellectual. It is not understood at the base physiological level, much less at the heart level. And appreciating that we have these deeper levels that we move through and we have to release in their own way at their own time is important. Too many Westerners think they can just think their way through this. And it's like, that's not how this works. When I talk about this stuff, I'm really not just talking at the intellectual level. There is an intellectual level to this, but there's a heart and a body and energetic levels that I'm also speaking towards. And as you release your attachments to those illusions on that particular level, whatever it is, the heart, the body, and the energy as we go, your world opens up. The possibilities, the things that you can do expand versus the ego and its sense of individuality and separateness starts to like close us off from all these other things. Well, like that might hurt, and that might hurt, and that might hurt, and that might hurt. That'll get me what I want, and that'll get me what I want, and that'll get me, right? And so it separates this entire world based off of our most basic drives and desires. As usual, you come back to awareness a lot. The more you come back to awareness, the more you see about yourself and how you're still lensing, how you're still filtering a present situation, how you're trying to manipulate it and get what you want or avoid what you don't. That stuff keeps going away. Having no desires as we drop through deeper levels of these illusions and attachments doesn't mean we lack the ability to do things. Actually, the loss of desire and the loss of fear opens up a huge array of opportunities. We really don't understand just how limited we are. We really don't understand how much we limit ourselves based off of these deeper and deepest, most illusions and attachments. You really can do anything. It's amazing. Anything within the sphere of a human possibility. I mean, we're not going to fly by flapping our arms. And you wouldn't even think about that as you deeper illusions, because that would just be the ego coming up with random stuff that you don't care about anyway. So the main thing that I want to offer today is an appreciation of these deepest illusions. And they do cause suffering. They change how we interact with life and what we want from other people and how we engage. And if you drop those away, the pain and the suffering that we've caused ourselves to try and maintain certain illusions, like somehow we're not going to get hurt or die ever because we do have these illusions and we don't admit them to ourselves. As you drop those away, then how you want to interact with life and what seems interesting radically changes. The possibilities and things that you're able to achieve greatly expand and open up. So a great deal of suffering comes from these deepest illusions and attachments, and they need to be healed as well. And as we heal that, then the possibility to grow and to expand into life becomes profound. I hope these thoughts have been helpful for you. If you ever want support, I do one-on-one sessions. You can reach out to me through my blog. And feel free to check out the resources down below this video. Have a beautiful day.